All right, so here we have one of the most intensely Star Trek ways of being bureaucratically insane. See, the whole two threatened colonies thing. The colonies are threatened because the Federation has forgotten about their existence and left them to fend for themselves completely with no assistance of any kind for something like 200 years. Oh, also, there's a side plot about Worf poisoning himself because Klingons are. Oh, yeah. Anyways, the side plot, honestly, if I was doing a TTRPG, there's no reason to bother with that. It's filler. Who cares? Players in a TTRPG will find something to do to amuse themselves instead of progressing the story. Always happens. Anyways, though, moving on. So, for the actual main plot here, a Federation starbase has picked up a signal from the Ficus sector, which the Federation hasn't sent ships to monitor recently. Okay. Federation does not actually have maps showing the locations of Federation colonies in this sector. That's a problem, and we'll find out why shortly. Now, one of the colonies in the system has sent an old but identifiable transponder signal and is requesting assistance from whoever. See, they're not specifically calling Starfleet, but they're sending a distress signal back to Earth. Yeah, the distress signal marks it as a European hegemony ship. One of the oldest colony ships that left Earth. Yeah. Anyways, so about the Ficus sector, because I'll get to the colonists themselves in a bit, but for reference, the colony ship SS Mariposa, which I guess we'll take a quick look at that here. It's basically a freighter with a bunch of people on it, not a huge number of people, but I don't even think it actually says how many in the episode. But, enough that they actually had a reason to think that they had a good chance of making a viable colony. And of course, they brought livestock and various pieces of machinery to build a proper settlement. Sounds simple. Okay, well, see, the problem here, though, they dropped off the first group of colonists at a location. One thing that is noteworthy, the crew of the Enterprise does not even know that the Mariposa planted 2 colonies on planets in the Ficus sector. Okay, they don't know that. All they know is that the SS Mariposa had filed a mission statement declaring that they were going to go to this sector of space to establish a colony. Apparently, the United Federation of Planets never sent a ship to follow up and verify the status of the colony at all. They know that humans from Earth took a ship, the SS Mariposa, into the Ficus sector to establish a colony, and they were never heard from again. Was it destroyed? I don't know. Apparently no one bothered looking. That's where I say this one's a Star Trek version of bureaucratic nonsense, because you can come up with in-universe explanations for that. It really isn't that hard. I mean, just, someone mistakenly saying that they had reason to believe the ship had been destroyed, and then nobody else bothers to check up on it. Okay, well, And in Star Trek, there is a recurring theme of the Federation has not actually explored every square inch of what they consider to be Federation space, and they constantly have the heroes of the episode exploring regions of space that are already claimed as part of the Federation that they haven't even mapped, but they have decided to claim as Federation territory. And the ficus sector was presumably part of that. Anyways, writing that as the plot hook for a TTRPG, you could do that. That is absolutely something you could do. It's like bureaucratic idiots like oopsied and forgot to check up on a colony, and then now you, centuries later, have to check up, have to fix what went wrong with the colony several decades too late. Anyways, so this is the Mariposa. If I want to do a quick look at this, because quite frankly, it's not a very big ship. It had space in it to bring the food, livestock, supplies, and colonists, and not much else. The first group of colonists got dropped off in Bringloid. And these guys who decided they wanted to have an agrarian farming colony with a relatively low technology level, which seems to have worked out quite well for them, to be honest. However, and this is an important plot point, these are the guys who called the Federation for help. I mean, they didn't direct it to the Federation, but you get the idea. So they obviously had some advanced technology with them, which was 200 years old at this point, but still functional, because they knew that there was going to be a problem. Yeah, let's see here. Wait, where's the gun? That's not really... whatever. See, the problem here is that the planet Bringloid 5 had a reasonably nice place for a colony. People had been living there for 200 years. In 2365, the colony was a total of 225 people. Massive solar flares started erupting, and the people on the colony had reason to believe that the solar flare activity was going to make their colony uninhabitable. And because of the fact that the SS Mariposa had left them behind, they have no method of transporting themselves off the planet, so they had to call for help. Now, again, as a TTRPG plot seed, great option. I mean, like, oh hey, it's a colony that has an emergency and is in immediate need of assistance. Cool. The reason why this colony is calling you for assistance is kind of strange, but if you're adapting this into a TTRPG, you could tweak the logic, because quite frankly, leaving a colony to fend for themselves for 200 years is insane. Anyways, though, moving on. Very nice picture, honestly. Looking it up, 3,000 metric tons as unloaded weight actually kind of almost makes sense. What the heck this means, I don't know. It might actually mean something, or it might be random nonsense. Launch date. This is interesting because it's exactly 100 years from now. DY500. Yeah. Note, the owner, OCC. At no point does anyone, either in the script or the finished episode, actually even look at that. So we have that's in the Okudagram, but we don't know what that means. And the registry number, again, nothing. Anyway, though, enough of that. So, in the ficus sector, we have the Bringloidy. However, the SS Mariposa, after dropping off the Bringloidy at Bringloid, continued to another planet, and while they were attempting to establish a colony there, the ship crashed, and all but 5 of them died. Which, oh, yeah, let me look at this one again, is the reason why they have what are supposed to look like clones. Like these are, made up to look like it's the same woman with slightly different hairstyles. These are played by people who are either brothers or maybe even identical triplets. I genuinely am not certain about that. They do have a very strong resemblance, though. And they're supposed to be clones of someone. Because, 5 members of the crew lived, so they used cloning technology to keep making clones of the 5 people that actually survived coming to Mariposa. And again, they're humans from Earth who... Now, this is an interesting part, is that they crashed on the planet as part of setting up the colony. All but 5 of them died, and apparently they didn't send a distress signal to Earth. They build a technologically savvy civilization with a reasonably robust technology base, and have made multiple clones of themselves and created a civilization composed entirely of clones. Because they decided that having offspring the old-fashioned way was risky because of a lack of genetic diversity, and that it wouldn't be a stable colony. It's like, wait, why are you just staying here? Why aren't you, like sending a distress signal back to Earth or something? Yeah, they didn't do that. They seemingly didn't even try. Well, it's possible that whatever communications equipment they had was destroyed when the Mariposa crash landed. I mean, it's a possibility. Did anyone who was left alive have the ability to, or knowledge to make one? Maybe not. I'm not certain about that. And of course, it's possible that they did try to contact Earth. It's just that they weren't able to get a signal back to Earth for reasons. Because again, this is technology from the 2200s, or 21st, whatever, 2135. This is old tech. And the people in the colony, maybe they just weren't able to get a signal far enough. It is entirely possible that Mariposa is farther from Earth than Bringloid is. Anyway, though, because of replicative fading, they were having their population become genetically flawed. The problem with this idea is that replicative fading, you do not need to have indiscriminate genetic selection. Is that if one person has DNA that is damaged and thus they aren't healthy as an individual, you use DNA from a different copy of the clone. I mean, come on now. Also, you could just edit DNA. It's like, oh, this chromosome is damaged. We'll swap out a different one. Anyway, theoretically possible. It's conceivable that they didn't have anyone with the specific knowledge to do that because, again, it's a colony ship that crash landed, and it's possible that the people who were survivors just didn't have the detailed knowledge, and maybe possibly they just didn't bring a computer database with all that in it. Anyway, though, so doing this as a TTRPG thing, though, is that it's a very, very Star Trek problem because, like, you have one colony which, while it's generally low technology, they do have some advanced technology. They just don't have enough advanced technology to rely on it for daily life. Daily life is, simple agrarian sort of lifestyle, which results in the hilarious scene of people beaming to the Enterprise and bringing a pile of hay with them. And, various other farming implements. Side note, why did they beam animals to the transporter pad? Why? Putting them in a cargo bay would be much more, appropriate. But anyways, that was actually one of the things about this episode that was weird, is that they don't have the Bringloidy live in a cargo bay. They and their animals live in what are, unoccupied quarters somewhere. Yeah, they've managed to find room for 225 people on the ship and their livestock and whatever other stuff they took with them without shoving them into the cargo bay. Okay, whatever. I mean, it is the Enterprise D. It is a large vessel, and it results in the amusement of having farm animals wandering the corridors of the Enterprise. And they had actual live animals wandering around the set while filming. And then there's this Riker doing negotiations. In a TTRPG, that's actually something that is thing you might end up having players do. It's an option, not saying it's a good option, just saying that it exists. Now, here's the ethical question. Someone stole your DNA and decided to make clones of you so that they could enhance their civilization, because their civilization has a very small number of personnel. Are you going to just destroy the clones? Because that's kind of sort of like murder, Anyways. Also, here's another amusing one. The Mariposans somehow made Pulaski and Riker forget that they'd had some of their genetic material swiped. What? Yeah. Also, the procedure that was used for it was not the old thing of like take a handful of skin cells. No, 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 no. This was a more invasive one where you actually have to, do minor surgery. Anyways, though, one of the things about this that was interesting is that the actual resolution has the hilarious scene of the Mariposan governor wandering around. Okay, I guess this is a cargo bay, huh? Well, this is the part where they actually store the farm animals, so I guess the farm animals are in the cargo bay and the rest of them aren't. Anyways, though, have the Mariposan guy in his sleazy looking jacket wandering around looking at the farm animals and children with utter bewilderment that this is the way people used to live before the society on Mariposa was created via cloning. Because again, the Mariposas have been living that way for like 200 years. Also, the idea that the colony will have their cloning ideas fail within 50 years is kind of strange because it would seem to indicate that all of the currently surviving Mariposans are suffering from genetic disorders that make it impossible to create viable clones from them. Side note, if it's really that bad, you're basically raising the Bringloidy children to have educations, to have the technological understanding that the Mariposans do, and the Mariposas are basically just going to die off and leave the Bringloidy to uh, have their civilization. Anyway, though, this whole thing about encouraging genetic diversity, I feel the need to point out. Oh, wait, I already did that. Again, that why the hell is the Federation just leaving them on their own to their own devices? And you can have other people from Earth come to Mariposa and live on Mariposa if you want to improve the gene pool. You don't need to maintain the colony as an isolated uh, governance completely separate from the Federation and Starfleet. Yeah, that's something that your players, if you're doing a game similar to this, uh, might have reason to ponder. Mm. Very ethically questionable. But it's ethically questionable in multiple different ways, and that's something that you could definitely play with in a TTRPG. Because this is an episode that doesn't have any um, action. It's all about the personal drama. And a lot of that personal drama is actually rooted in the fact that the Federation left these guys to their own devices for 200 years and didn't even bother checking to see whether or not the Mariposa actually got destroyed. Until they received the distress call, the Federation knew absolutely nothing about the fate of the SS Mariposa. Like I said, bureaucratic nonsense. But that sort of thing would actually make a viable plot hook, and all of the ethical questions, yeah, so many ethical questions. To be quite honest, this particular situation would also work out reasonably well having two separate colonies on the same planet. You don't necessarily need to have the colonies on separate planets. Part of the reason why they had them on separate planets here is that one of the colonies was on a planet that's going to be destroyed due to the fact that its star had become unstable and started to destroy the planet and make the planet uninhabitable. You don't need to write it that way if you're doing something that is, shall we say, inspired by, but not, directly copying. I still find it hilarious that the USS Enterprise D had to map the two colonies on the Federation star chart. However, that is the reason for the plot to happen. Because if the colonies had actually been properly monitored, like you would expect someone who was sane to do, there would have been no reason for the Enterprise to get involved. And that conceit is actually something that you would need to remember, is that while it makes sense to me to want to check up on things like that, bureaucrats aren't necessarily going to see it the same way. Especially when it's bureaucrats who are handling paperwork filed by someone they don't know, and they might just, it's like, oh, we think that's probably destroyed, so we're not going to worry about checking up on it because it was probably destroyed, so uh, not our problem. Alrighty, well, for my single episode videos, this one's been a long one, but this is an episode that has all sorts of stuff to talk about and ponder. And this is actually one of the ones where the plot is on a scale and intensity that's absolutely fine tuned to be viable as something you could swipe for TTRPG. Because, you could actually even have combat get mixed into it. Because, maybe the reason why the colony wasn't contacting the Federation is because they were trying to hide, and it was a rogue agent in their colony that called for assistance. Hard to say, because, oh, that's an idea. Augments. Khan-style augments who had left Earth after the eugenics wars could have made a colony somewhere because the Botany Bay was actually designed as a colony ship. It didn't actually manage to reach a planet and create a colony, but it was designed to have the ability to do so. So, you have options. At any rate, I think I've talked about this one enough.